Hello and welcome back. As promised, I'm going to show you today how to make primitive pantry cakes. I hope you'll stay tuned with us and we'll show you what we've got coming up. Okay, I'm going to start by reading about our pantry cakes and how to make them. Primitive pantry cakes are a wonderful addition to your primitive kitchen or anywhere else in your home for that matter. They are, of course, non-edible decor for your primitive home. Every one is individually designed and created. My recipe is loaded with a lot of wonderful spices. Once they have cooled, I rub on even more spices for maximum grunge and prim personality. The cakes are grubby and primitive and are a beautiful brown color. They have a multitude of decorating options. Add them to a corner on a shelf or on a counter or cupboard in your cooking room or gathering room for the warm, comforting scent of baking spices and a touch of prim. Tucked into the corner of a pie safe, they are simply beautiful. They are very long-lasting prim decor, and the fragrance, memories of Granny's kitchen, will come flooding back every time you take a whiff. Some of the recipes call for adding wadded up aluminum foil to the center of the cakes to allow for the mixture to dry better and thus prevent molding over time. If you do not add the foil in the large cakes, you will have to bake them much longer. The foil is not necessary in the small tart size. Once your cakes, place your cakes in an old tin and surround them with rose hips for a beautiful display. The first recipe is the one I used, and the second is a little different variation with fewer spices inside. Don't forget to rub spices on the outside for more fragrance. So the one that I used, it starts with 4 tablespoons of used coffee grounds, or more, depending on the darkness that you want, because that's going to control your color. Then add 1 cup of sea salt, 2 cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of cinnamon plus extra for rubbing on the outside of the cakes later, 2 tablespoons of ground cloves, 1 cup more or less, and this is water, 1 cup water more or less depending on consistency of the dough. Use less water if your coffee grounds are wet. Then a few drops of scent oil, and that's optional if you want to do that. It could be cinnamon oil or whatever. Mix the dough just until everything is combined and not too sticky. Spray the molds with cooking spray. Coat with cinnamon, cloves, or whatever spices you like. Mold dough into molds, making sure the bottom is even. I use brewed coffee instead of water to make the cakes darker. I also painted on melted scented wax to cool the cake for an even older look. Oven temperature is 170 degrees. Remember, you are actually drying the cakes instead of baking them. My small tarts were in the oven for about 6 hours, but my large cake took about 12 hours. Putting a wad of foil in the center would have cut down on the baking time. It is helpful to remove the cake, large ones, every hour and spray lightly with cooking spray and more spices. After the baking time is up, you could turn off your oven and just let them sit in there, and they'll kind of cool on their own. The second recipe we have is much simpler. I like the one that I just read to you better. The second one has 1 cup of flour, 1/2 cup salt, 1 cup coffee grounds, and 1/2 cup cold coffee. You spray the pan with cooking spray, press the dough all around the inside of the mold about 1/4 inch or more thick. Then wad up foil to fill the middle, then put a layer at the top to cover the foil, making sure the bottom is even. Otherwise, if the whole pan is filled with the dough, it is harder to get dry all the way through and it could get moldy and icky. Then you bake in a slow oven, 170 degrees, for several hours, or leave it out in the sun for a really long time to dry. I recommend the oven method. When it's dry, rub spices all over it, or make that fake icing with half and half white glue and white paint to drizzle over the top, like if you want it to look like a cinnamon cake or something like that. As with anything, practice makes perfect. The more you experiment with these recipes, the more creative you will become. Happy baking. Okay, I've got some pictures and a little bit of video showing some of my pantry cakes that I've made. So I hope you all try this, and especially around the holidays, there's nothing that makes your home smell more inviting and just great to welcome your guests in, if you have guests this year. And so hope you enjoy, and let me know in the comments if you're going to try or if you have any comments about the recipes. Thank you. Bye-bye. I've got some pantry cakes here that I made a while ago that I'd like to show you, and I display them in these under these shoe fly screens. The shoe fly screens are not old, they're reproduction, but I do love them. And this one I have put a tie around it made out of cheesecloth, and that I have coffee stained. And so that kind of gives it a more primitive look as well. And then I put them in a little pan, and I put these berries around them. They're kind of dried berries, and you can find those at a lot of craft stores. Okay, and this one over here they're the smaller ones. And you can see they were made in a smaller mold. These need to be refurbished, and I'm going to tell you in a second how to refurbish them. But these are years old, so they will last you a long, long time. And I'm out in the sunroom this morning, so I will show you out here these others. These I display in an old scale, and these have been refurbished. And to refurbish them, to make them, once they get kind of dry looking, maybe they start fading, I just brush them with vanilla extract and to make them damp, and then I sprinkle them with cloves and cinnamon powder, and that will refresh and make them smell so good again. And then I display them in here with there's orange slices and some cinnamon sticks and just about anything that you want to see. You could use apple slices, whatever you want. I've done the same thing with an old kind of a grungy pear, and I refurbished that. And also this little pumpkin or gourd, whatever you want to call it, is kind of it's a fake one. And then I just took that and put vanilla on it and sprinkled it with my spices as well. You could also use allspice or some of the other fragrant spices that you like.